Susan Cingari here with Ana Julaton, who has a big fight coming up against Irina Mazapa in the Philippines on December 11th. Ana, welcome to the show, and how are you today?
Oh, good. Thanks for having me on.
Now, I hear from your coaches that training camp has really been stepped up, and you're working out 3 times a day? Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. MMA is definitely different than boxing, and I think one of the key things that I have is the team being very communicative. They communicate a lot within each other. So there's a big risk with getting injured, for instance, and just, stepping away from the boxing, the wrestling, the jiu-jitsu, the grappling, the wall work and stuff like that. So it's really intense, but I understand that. It's a really big fight, and, we're just gearing up.
Now, you have a 2-inch height advantage over your opponent and a mean left hook. Will you look to keep the fight standing then?
Oh, absolutely. That's my bread and butter. That's what I identify myself as a fighter. I feel like I have the advantage there, even though she has experience in kickboxing and so forth. I feel like boxing gives a certain, it teaches something to a fighter when they go through the adversity. And I don't think a lot of the other styles, and I'm not trying to discredit any of the other styles either, but there's something about learning how to get punched in the face, understanding what it means to whenever you throw a punch or whenever you need to use your footwork, and having to deal with yourself when you feel exposed and you're tired and to the point of just full exhaustion. And I feel like boxing teaches that to a fighter, which I think is essential to any combat sport. So I feel like with this fight, and in all my fights, that's going to be like my go-to.
Now, you're Filipino and you're fighting in front of your home country, so to speak, even though you were born in the USA. Any extra pressure to perform over there for you?
No, not at all. I love it over in the Philippines, just to have the full support. And it's nice. In boxing, I'm used to going to my opponent's hometown. I fought in Argentina, fought an Argentinian, went to Canada, fought a Canadian, went to Mexico, fought a Mexican, and so forth. And so it's nice to be a Filipino fighting in the Philippines and having everyone around you supporting you. So I look forward to it.
You're a black belt in Taekwondo and a discipline called Bok Fu. It's a very aggressive style. Can you share with our viewers what Bok Fu is?
It's like you said, it's very aggressive. It's self-defense oriented, and I think a lot of the concepts that they teach in Bok Fu is that it prepares the practitioner to just be aware with their entire body. So it's not necessarily the physical portion of it, which is obviously a big part of it, but I think it's all about understanding your mind frame, understanding the situation, and understanding what the pressure and how to deal with the fight or flight concept, and just being able to work through fatigue, and I feel like a lot of that is essential in a world title fight and just going into combat or in just anything else that you do. And I feel like with the martial arts discipline, it kind of taught me that, and I think that helped me a lot when I started pursuing boxing, when I started going out and we pursued and found someone like a Ricky Lundell who has this high caliber way of training. And I feel like it takes a lot of dedication, not only physically, but not only mentally, but emotionally. You have to be invested in it. And I feel like that martial art just was able to have me understand that.
Speaking of martial arts, I read that your dad introduced you to the sport, and you weren't interested in boxing when you were younger. Can you tell us about this story?
Oh, wow. I think that's the first time anyone's ever asked me this question.
Oh, I do my research before these. Don't you worry.
Well, I remember when I was younger, I just fell in love with the martial arts. My dad exposed me to Bruce Lee, and it was just so interesting. I mean, it was violent. There was blood involved, but the way that he was depicted in the motion pictures was how he had this code of martial arts etiquette, and it just attracted me to it. So my dad got me into Taekwondo, and I was really lucky that he found one of the best trainers in terms of, I met with Debbie Peterson, who happened to train Dana He, who was the first female Olympic gold medalist to go over to Seoul, Korea in Taekwondo as an American and win a gold medal. And so I was under her tutelage, as a young child. And, I understand the game aspect of it. Now with boxing, it's a different thing altogether. Angelo Reyes, my boxing trainer, actually introduced that to me, and it's a different philosophy. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of violence. You get hit in the head, you get hit in the body, and at first glance, I thought it was two athletes egotistically wanting to get into the ring and just try to see, who's the better person that day. And as I got into the sport and understood it and got to learn with like Freddie Roach and got to work with like a Roger Mayweather, they started to teach me the game aspect of it, which I started to appreciate a lot more. I mean, there's a lot more to just throwing punches. There's the head movement. There's the positioning in the ring. It's understanding how to have your body form the tools and maintain the composure you would need from the first minute to the last minute, whether it's a 4-round fight or a title fight. And it's just beautiful. So even though boxing doesn't give a lot of recognition for a lot of female boxers, well, I would have to say if it wasn't for boxing, I would definitely wouldn't be moving into MMA and have the type of self-confidence that I feel like I have, and the understanding of what a fighter needs to go through in terms of adversity for fights like that. So, they're Taekwondo, martial arts, and boxing, wrestling, they're all completely different worlds, but I really feel like boxing is a really good base for me.
We're going to talk a little bit about Holly Holmes in a few minutes. In the meantime, you were speaking about Angelo, and I want to thank Angelo Reyes for helping me set up this interview, by the way. You met him and you got involved in the sport through a lecture, right? He came to your Bok Foy training center. Tell the story about that.
It's funny, like Angelo's background is martial arts. He was the assistant chief instructor for the school, and he had started at a very young age and started teaching at a very young age. He was running a martial arts school when he was like in high school, teaching adults, people who were professionals, and just having them achieve their goals into becoming a Bok Foy black belt. So I feel like, with him at the time, since the school was very traditional, he wanted something a little bit more modern, and so he looked at all the different styles, whether it was Muay Thai, kickboxing, and boxing and stuff like that. And he felt like boxing was the great parallel to the martial art, where it tests your knowledge, it tests your skill, and also tests your heart, which is all the traits that you want to have as you become a black belt in the martial arts. And so for me at that time, I was learning more about myself as I moved along into arts. And then at that time, Angelo brought boxing into our system, and so right. I was also teaching, and in order for me to start teaching all the other students, I had to take a couple of classes, and it just kind of took off from there. It's a funny road, because I would never imagine myself just lacing up a pair of gloves. I've been kicking since I was 10 years old, and I would never imagine myself using my fists for combat. But it was just a weird combination how everything all just lined up to here I am today, just being able to do what I do.
I'm a big believer in all that lining up stuff. There's a lot of synchronicity going on in the world. How did you get the name The Hurricane?
It's a funny thing, because a lot of people had a hard time pronouncing my last name. My last name starts with the letter J, and so instead of saying Julaton, they would say Julaton, Julaton, just adding Hurricane. It was funny. Like my team thought it was a way to have the announcer kind of remember that you want to pronounce the J as an H, Hurricane Jualton. So it kind of had that ring to it. So more than anything, it's just trying to get the respect of all the announcers in the sport of boxing, having them take the time to really understand my name, even though I wasn't, your typical, at that time you didn't see a lot of like Filipino girls going into the sport of boxing and try to compete with all the other boxers. So yeah, it was just to get my name right.
Speaking of getting your name right, Manny Pacquiao scouted you, right? That's sort of the whole transition period for you.
It's funny. I wouldn't say that he necessarily scouted me. We just happened to meet through by chance. Angelo Reyes had me and also the amateur team from our martial arts down for a national tournament for the amateurs, and it was at Oxnard, California. And at that time, I think Pacquiao was getting ready to fight Eric Morales for the second time. Yeah. And so it was about an hour away, and we're here. Why not? Let's go and check it out. Went over to Wildcard, got to meet Freddie Roach, did some minutes with them, and from the meet Manny, and it was like all a whirlwind. It was pretty crazy, and it was pretty neat to be able to connect as a Filipino American, to also connect with a Filipino from the Philippines who's doing well in the sport of boxing, and it's just kind of like, even though we're from the same ethnicity, just to have the culture kind of blend in together and just kind of integrate and just kind of connect. I felt like that was for me, it was just an emotional experience that it went far with me. So it was pretty neat.
Getting back to MMA now, I want to read you a quote that I found. It's from, I think, 2013, but it's an interesting quote nonetheless. I want a rematch with Ann Osman, and I would love to have it for the title in a five-minute round fight. The people of the Philippines want to see the rematch, and I believe everyone in Asia would love to see that fight. Let's make this happen. There won't be any problems on my side. We are ready to go. So when is this fight going to happen?
Oh, I hope it happens soon. I mean, I've been trying to get a fight with her all year long, and she's been matched up with some other girls, and I even offered to go and fight over in her hometown in Malaysia and stuff.
Wow.
And so it just never materialized. So, hopefully, with me, I want to take care of business on December 11th and really make a huge impact and just make a statement and just calling her out again and see if I can get that shot, because I feel like ONE FC definitely needs to have a female world champion, and I feel like I can definitely step my foot in.
You're ready. You're ready to go. I can hear that in your voice. How has working with legendary coach Ricky Lundell transformed your game? And on MMA Mayhem Radio, they recently called him the Transformer, which I thought was really interesting.
Wow. It's, again, I think all of that just kind of happened by chance, because Ricky Lundell is such a high caliber athlete, a phenomenal coach. And it's funny, when it was me, Angelo and Ricky, we were all sitting down on the couch and we were going over the game plan and stuff, and we were reviewing tape and reviewing techniques and stuff like that. And it's funny because Angelo made a comment saying that Ricky Lundell is like Luke Skywalker with Yoda's brain. Like if you listen to the he's quite a unique guy, because not only can he coach high caliber elite world class athletes, I mean, he can step in there and he can work with them, he can train with them. For Frank Mir's past camps, I got the chance to actually sit in, because it's also like my lesson to learn more about the sport and learn more about the style and kind of look forward to what I need to apply when I'm into the cage. And I've seen Ricky Lundell go toe to toe with Frank Mir grappling.
Wow.
And Ricky would just get him off his track, and he would escape. It was amazing. I was like, is this a movie? Is this Tony Jaa? Because he makes it look so simple, and you can really tell all the mileage he did in the sport of grappling or wrestling, and also in jiu-jitsu, and with all his dedication, it really shines through every day. Like he's just it's incredible. I'd like to see any other coach out there right now currently who can actually stand in there with their star fighter and actually spar and go toe to toe with them. And so for me, we're just really lucky. Again, Angelo Reyes finds these gems in these situations. He's the one that got me hooked up with Ricky Lundell, and I think it's been intense. I think it's a double-edged sword though, because with being under Lundell MMA, there's a lot to be expected. Not only do you have to do the work, you have to perform the work, and you have to, live up to the demands of it. And so I feel like anyone who wants to ask to go into Lundell MMA, I'm saying, hey, you're on the right track, but be careful what you ask for, because you're going to get you're going to get a butt kicking. I mean, that's just part of it. It's but I think if you're mentally prepared for that, and I feel like martial arts really kind of had me understand that, where it just, even though I was able to achieve, all this in boxing, all this in martial arts, blah, 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 like you just have to go down to ground zero and just listen wholeheartedly and just kind of transform, just get out of your comfort zone. So, it's a lot of work. Ricky Lundell is amazing. And I have to credit him, Angelo Reyes, and also my strength coach, David Gavick, from Hybrid Performance, for just constantly communicating with each other, trying to get the idea of what kind of game plan they want to compose, and tell it in a way where if I'm not understanding it from Angelo, Ricky could say it in a different way, or David could say it in a different way. And it's really cool, because none of them step on each other's boundary. Everyone understands the hierarchy, and at the end of it, there's one plan, one solid voice in a way, in terms of like how it's just clear, So it's pretty interesting. So For me, I could, well, when I'm fatigued and I just want to sit back and just kind of relax. It's nice to almost step into being a fan again and be like, wow, these guys are really good at what they do. And I'm just really lucky to just get my ass kicked by all these guys, but at the same time, just kind of learn more about myself and more about the game. So
I like that quote. I'm lucky to get my ass kicked by all these guys. That's a good one to remember. How difficult has the transition been for you to go from boxing to MMA? Now, I'm not talking mentally, because obviously boxing has prepared you. You do have a martial arts background, but what did you find that was the most difficult transition-wise for you to go to the sport of MMA?
Honestly, I think it was communication and finding the right coaches. Mm-hmm. On the first 2 camps before I started working with Ricky Lundell, it's just kind of understanding what MMA is really all about, and that's what makes Ricky Lundell so good, is that he can just be a blueprint of what to look for and what it's really, what it's really all about. So I think, as a fighter, it's all about being able to have that mind frame and that concise goal of like what to aim for. And I think because of that, because everyone is working as a team and everyone understands what to do and they're really good at it, it just makes my job easy, because now all I get to do is I just got to be the athlete. I don't need to question anyone. There's a set format, and all I need to do is just execute. And so it just helps out a lot, and I feel like it makes me healthy, not only physically but mentally and emotionally, because I can see how it can be frustrating if you're working on something and then that one thing isn't working, and then no one's giving you the information that you need, or no one can articulate it in the way that you need in order for you to get the performance that you would need to get. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of it is just them knowing how to work with each other, working with me.
It's interesting. It sounds like you have a lot more confidence with this particular team that you're working with than you have in your past, because you mentioned communication a couple of times, so I'm happy for you. All right, now, what are your thoughts on the Holly Holm Ronda Rousey fight?
Oh, it was phenomenal. Oh my gosh. It's funny because I was just having lunch with Angelo the other day, and it's like a few years ago. I remember talking to one of my nieces. She was like 11 years old, and she was talking about Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather. This girl has no business with talking about those two guys for a boxing match, a violent sport, because she's all about Disney, and all the she's just that. And then we walk into this restaurant, and you hear the workers in there. They're talking about Ronda Rousey, Holly Holm. So it's neat because they're two females. They're headlining, and it's for a major event. They're not talking about guys. I mean, the Holly Holm versus Ronda Rousey fight just took all of the hype that we're supposed to be for. I think a Canelo versus Alvarez is supposed to happen next week.
Right.
I think their numbers definitely blew away Triple G's, Gennady Golovkin's fights, and there was also a boxing match that happened last night too. I haven't heard anything about it.
I didn't hear anything about it either.
And it's really refreshing just to step soil in the United States to hear the typical American talk about female fighting. I mean, like I've stepped outside of the U.S. and fought outside, and a lot of female fighters are revered, but to have it in the United States is a big deal.
It's a big deal.
So it's truly inspiring, and I have a lot of respect for both of them. Ronda Rousey did a lot for female athletes. I mean, we wouldn't be having this conversation now if it wasn't for her.
Yeah, I agree.
And Holly Holm, I think Holly Holm, she did exactly what she's used to doing, and she was a lot of her experience in the boxing world and all the training that she did with their camp. It just showed, and so I think it's something that a lot of people can look at and appreciate, and I look forward for the rematch, hopefully a rubber match.
It's interesting because only two fighters, Holly Holm and yourself, have transitioned from boxing to MMA. So do you feel like last night's fight and win by Holly Holm is a victory for women's boxing as well?
Oh, absolutely. I think for all of combat sports, whether ladies are getting into Muay Thai, glory kickboxing, BKB, any of that, because I think with that fight and the magnitude of that fight and the stage that it presented, I think it just opens the doors for a lot of people to be open more to the concept. So hopefully, the boxing promoters and boxing networks will be open up to something like that. And I think what helps out with those guys as well is that we do have Olympics for the females.
Yep.
So now they have an avenue of actually exposing themselves to the mainstream public and getting worldwide recognition. And we have stars. And so I think that was one of the things that was probably lacking in female boxing is not having the avenue to go for the Olympics, where you had someone like Muhammad Ali winning a gold medal. You had Sugar Ray Leonard, etc. Things like that. So, like we talked about earlier, maybe everything's just kind of lining up. Finally, it just took this long.
Speaking of boxing, you were very disappointed you couldn't compete in the Olympics, and you campaigned for that. Give us your thoughts on that.
I understand how the world works. It's just where we're at the time, and the only thing you can really do is just just talk about it and just get people aware of it, and just to get more people understand the movement. And it just takes time, and I think just having a lot of patience and believing in yourself, and just knowing and just being able to do and be at your best with what you're given. I think that's one of the biggest purpose that we should aim for as we continue on in our daily lives. You know what I mean? So it's that you can point the finger at a lot of people, and I'm not saying that I haven't done it either, but it does help when you have this movement, and if you felt the momentum come. It just had to be with the right people and the right everything. So
looking ahead, if you were able to get into the UFC, is there anyone that you have on your radar that you'd like to be matched with?
Obviously, I would love to capture a title. I think I would probably head more into the 115 division, because right now, I fight at 125 for MMA, and I do that because I also have the ability to continue with boxing, which I fight at 122 pounds. But as I continue on with this MMA camp, I find it hard to just kind of keep the weight on, because there's just so many things that you always have to do, you know what I mean? So I feel like I'm naturally just trimming down a little bit more, because I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I gotta anyway. But yeah, I would love to the opportunity to fight something like a Joanna Jacek, and just go down the road in that direction. But again, I don't want to look past this fight that's coming up. But yeah.
So does that mean that you're thinking about leaving boxing then and going full time into MMA? Because you're doing both at the same time. I don't know how you do that. It's tough. It all depends on what opportunity comes at your way. So I like to obviously just keep that options open, because I feel like if there's any time to do anything, it'd be now, especially with the whole movement going on with female athletics, female fighting. And so I just want to just take it one day at a time, see just what's just right in front of me, and just deal with that, and then the rest will eventually unfold. Again, I never imagined myself just, stepping into the boxing ring and just trying to learn the art of pugilism. I just liked boxing when growing up as a child. My grandfather will watch it, my dad will watch it all the time, and it was just violent. I didn't understand. Right. I understand. Yeah. In my next life, I'm coming back as a boxer for sure. I really like the sport of boxing. Yeah, I'm not very good at it now, but in my next life. Before we go today, Ana, anything else you'd like to add? And please tell our viewers how we can follow you on social media.
Oh, I want to say thank you for having me on, Susan. It's a great opportunity. I really appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you to everyone for all their support over the years, back when I was an amateur boxer, winning the world titles, and now venturing on into the MMA scene. Follow me. Just plug in my name. Just as long as you can spell it correct. Ana, A-N-A, so that's one N. Julaton with a J, U-L-A-T-O-N. Just log it on. You'll find my website, my Twitter, Facebook account, and Instagram. So just get my name.
Okay. Ana Julaton, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me during your busy training camp before your fight on December 11th. And I wish you good luck on your fight in Manila on December 11th.